Hey all, my name is Jullian. I'm a freshman at Bennington College and I'm currently studying computer science, design, music, video, and I'm the organizer for this panel presentation. I hope you enjoy. Welcome everyone, thank you for doing this panel presentation. We were not able to do it directly in front of the audience, but we hope that this is going to be helpful in fulfilling the requests we have to make and getting the community to understand better the issues international students have to deal with. So, starting off with the first issue we wanted to discuss, we wanted to address the curriculum of classes at Bennington and the training teachers get to include international students and global topics better. Who wants to start?
You want to start there?
Yeah. So I think that, as you two probably elaborate on as well, this is like a pretty significant issue in that it's almost invisible. However, it really affects the learning and class experience for international students and like myself personally. Hello, my name is Gregory. I'm a Kenyan student, currently a freshman at Bennington College, and I'm very glad to be a part of this conference. I'm currently studying political science and development studies. In a class I had last year, majority of the literature was based on American information written for Americans by an American person, and it was in fact a little hard for me to relate, and I ended up not doing too well in that class. So I decided to take grades. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I believe that one potential solution could be implementing a quota on the amount of diverse authors that are present in a curriculum. For example, you must have of course this would only apply to certain classes. If you have a study of Northeast American literature, you're not going to force someone to add someone from Kenya or something. But I feel like a lot of other classes could do a much better job.
When they talk about politics, when they talk about human rights, and
Yeah.
all those matters, a lot of it is concentrated on Western views. That you don't open up room for a lot that's outside.
Hi, I'm Akanksha. I'm a junior at Bennington College, and I'm here to talk about a few things that international students go through and ways in which we can introduce more of an international diversity in the college.
I agree. I think in my time here, I've seen that the idea of learning about other cultures, opening yourself to different artists and texts from different places, is usually sidelined to certain classes. So you have one specific class focusing on authors from Latin America, or authors from Eastern Europe, or like Western Africa. So it's always like, this is it. You're like, this is the class for that. And all these classes have limited spaces all the time. So you never get those same. You rarely get those same authors being included in more mainstream classes that just deal with an issue more broadly. I think some departments are better at this than others.
Agreed.
But even then, within those departments, there's always variation. There's always going to be a few professors who don't necessarily do that effort, and some who really do put in the effort to open up a bit more to other perspectives.
Hi, my name is Jade. I'm a senior at Bennington College. I study economics and anthropology. I am from El Salvador in the UK, and I use she, her pronouns.
And that is just an issue that I think that's one of the easier parts that we can kind of face, pushing a little. I think it's one of the better, compared to other issues, that might be that part is probably one of the easier ones to end up
Like to solve.
Yes,
on
yeah,
paper.
exactly. You know, to solve on paper at least. But like the implementation of it is definitely trickier, and it's like, how do you ensure that someone who doesn't have the knowledge, especially Western professors who don't have the knowledge about this specific subject, are able to tackle it with the depth and with the sensibility that a topic usually requires.
Then what about proposing maybe more international or more diverse visiting faculties to come? Because I know Bennington is a big hub when it comes to a lot of visiting faculties. Even in small, like even if it's like a subject, even if it's like one particular focus subject, if some visiting faculties from like international visiting faculties are brought, then I do think that there's more chance of the curriculum being more diverse. And even like for example, I know in classes I personally have also faced these where like most of them don't mean to, but then there are also comments and things that people say, sometimes faculties, sometimes students, that they think is very what do you consider very accepted, or is the truth about where we come from or what we do, without knowing that they shouldn't be saying those things. So maybe just like giving them a bit training as to how like not to assume that someone's immediately this or stuff like that. Just little training might be good to give to the faculty if possible.
Yeah, totally agree. Especially with those faculty that don't generally deal with these issues.
Yeah.
That might be probably harder, right, to convince them. But maybe not, a lot of people are very much more open than we think. So gotta give them some
Especially
leeway.
in science and VAPA.
Yeah,
I feel like
for sure.
the faculty members it would be good to, in general, to give it to everyone, basically.
Yeah,
But,
it totally would.
it's good.
It totally would. And yeah, I think it's interesting that even if we're not able to get super international visiting faculty, which we have been able to get way better than the time I've been here. Like it's gotten better, but even then, at least getting like groups from like American minorities is also like somehow surprisingly helpful at times. When it comes to like Asian Americans, Latin Americans, Caribbean and African Americans, especially like first generation, like that stuff. That gives you a lot more leeway to have these international perspectives that otherwise you wouldn't have. And some of my best classes have been with professors who have very direct immigrant backgrounds. So even then, even if they are Americans, it's good to have professors that also have an international experience, and are because of this, because of that, they're open to being challenged on some assumptions that they might have, or to look at more authors from the regions or from the regions or not.
How would this, sorry to interrupt, and I'm just kind of like jumping sometimes to like just add something. How do you guys think this could apply to the curriculum of international or people of color or American minorities as teachers' classes? If they're, because as much as I've seen so far, a lot of those are, and they're mostly visiting faculty, like if you notice as minorities are mostly visiting faculty here. Their classes are very narrowed down to the piece of culture that we're trying to bring in. And so how would this kind of apply to those classes?
This may be a sort of chicken come before the egg like kind of answer, but I think if regular faculty and other like majority of other classes where it would be applicable could have like a specific quota, be it like 20% or like 1/3 of the readings for this class are from like non-Americans or like diverse diverse authors and incorporate global perspectives. I feel like generally the mood around learning on campus would slowly like internationalize, and then visiting faculty would not have to like put the 110% into this one aspect because it's already being touched on little by little in other places.
Yeah.
And even having more talks, because a lot of information that I've gathered and I've actually learned are from Kappa talks mainly. So like maybe having more of those with a lot of diverse people coming in is also something that we could increase.
Yeah,
That would also help with a lot of.
for sure.
Let's think about. Oh, go ahead if you have.
No.
Let's think about how, because it's very obvious for us as international students studying in the US, how diversifying the curriculum and the classes and making them broader can help us in terms of like global learning. But I think it should be interesting to talk about how this could help Bennington at large, and especially the the community of American students. Why is this also relevant to them?
Yeah. And I have a lot of points about this because I think that most American students here are still very unknowledgeable about the world beyond the US. Even though many of them come from very privileged backgrounds, even the ones who have been privileged travel to other places or to study abroad generally don't have perspectives that are open, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way or anything, but it's just, there's a stereotype assumed with Americans that they are very closed and into themselves, and are very much ignoring things that happen in other places, and it is somewhat true. I think we can all speak from personal experience, and that it is an issue that many of us have faced here, even relating to some students. So I think that it would be very good for them if professors who are not seen as, who are not part of minorities, who are not part of necessarily the international community, are including into their class syllabi texts and information and speakers who are international and who are from minorities and who do put some focus on this, to show that these perspectives also matter. This will allow many of the students who have not, they've grown up very sheltered. This is, for many of them, this is the first experience that they have to be outside of a community that is not white or not American at least. It will allow them to get much more diverse perspectives and an opportunity that we have, in a way we have had, but also we have had thrust upon us. They'll be able to more easily relate to that kind of experience.
Right.
I think there's this quote that traveling teaches you better than any classroom can, and without maybe the chance of traveling, I think that including diverse and international works would act in a very similar manner. Like you'd be able to, in a way, travel in your own subject, geographically, see how different people think, like you said, bringing different perspectives, and vary the means in which you understand something.
Yeah, and it's not just going to be limited to students too. Even because Bennington community itself is a very white community, it's especially due to the talks and everything, that's one of the few things that the community people can attend.
Yeah.
So if there's more diversity in that, then diversity as a concept will be introduced in the community itself.
Yeah.
And especially with seeing how a lot of students here also focus on education as like a field of study, maybe going into schools and teaching them about different international cultures or about diversity, racism, all those things can actually help the kids grow up with a more diverse or open perspective.
I think that another possible one of the main how can I put this? One of the most important factors in my time in Bennington as a senior has been working with the staff and having different campus jobs and everything, and I find that this also like you said,
It applies to
it totally applies to them too. It applies to the staff. Most of them have never had the opportunity to travel as widely as we have, and sometimes that can give them like a very different worldview from ours, and we have to clear up a lot of misconceptions about things, and that's not bad. That's just the way that biases work, and having more widely available spaces for the community, the campus community that is not students and is not faculty to also be able to attend, will probably be also a way to connect and make this place more of a hub of for international students, for having bringing together peoples, nations, and cultures for peace and a sustainable future. I'm plagiarizing that from the UWC mission statement. I know, I shouldn't be doing that. But it's important, and I think this applies to all ages. I think people, whether they're in their 60s or in their 20s, if they have the opportunity to learn about other cultures, they should take it, and that'll be very beneficial to them. And like as an international student, you already have to clear up a lot of misconceptions about where you're from. You already get asked a lot of questions that are uncomfortable at times because you're young and you're like, well, I don't know that much about this topic. So if we have more talks and more events focused on this, that also include the wider campus community and the public, right? I mean, it'll be something very, very beneficial for the town. They can say, yeah, no, I know about this, and that'll spread. We'll be doing good on a different scale.
Yeah, and I do think that could also help the relationship between the college and the community too, because then the college can continue inviting more and more or encouraging more and more of the community to be a part of these talks. And I know that a lot of them are interested because I have talked to a lot of people on the streets of downtown or in North Bennington, and a lot of them are interested as to where international students are from and what we do, like what's back home like.
All right, guys. I think it might be time we move on to the second prompt.
I expected to have, a conversation that was going to be very helpful in order to understand where students from younger generations were at in terms of international student issues. I was quite pleasantly surprised to see that, a lot of things have improved. And at the same time, still kind of let down by the fact that others haven't. Some of the issues I faced when I first came here are still being faced by freshmen, and there's some that we have to address.
I did expect a lot of discussion on how we can kind of incorporate a lot of international cultures into American culture, because a lot of it I think is overlooked.
Yeah.
Because traditionally we had a very small international community, but now because our community is getting bigger, I expected us to have a lot of talk as to what the college could do.
Originally, I thought we were going to discuss issues that we face that are in a more personal manner. I wasn't really expecting to discuss issues and the actual pragmatic and practical solutions to these issues. So that was a very pleasant surprise.